Hello and welcome to this video of the online video course Wilderness Navigation Masters, where I will talk about what is these lines that we found on a topographic map and how to use them to get an idea of the relief. First thing to know, these lines are named contour lines. Contour lines are the brown lines that you usually see on a topographic map, which allows you to determine the elevation on every part of the map. How map makers do that? They do that by taking a mountain, for example, and start linking all the points that have the same elevation within this mountain. So if you walk following exactly a contour line, you will stay at the same elevation above sea level. There is three types of contour lines. First, we have index lines. It's the thick brown lines that are labeled with a number that represents the elevation above sea. The second type is the intermediate lines. They are the brown thin 5 lines between index lines. They don't have an elevation value to keep the map readable. It's the two types that you will find often on a topographic map. And there is the supplementary lines. These dashed brown lines are what map makers add between intermediate lines in areas where there isn't too much elevation difference. All that to help us understand well the topographic of the area. Before I go to what represent the space between contour lines, if you have dashes in one side of a contour line, those dashes mean that there is a depression in this side, like a hole in the ground, or it's a low area like the sides of what we see sometimes on a highway. Yes, in a topographic map, contour lines are often brown. But that does not mean that you will not find blue contour lines sometimes, because when a map maker wants to represent a glacier or permanent snowfield, they use the blue color instead of the brown. The space between two contour lines is what we refer to as the contour interval. It's the value of the vertical elevation change. It's one of the essential informations of a topographic map, and we found it usually underneath the map scale. Now that you know the importance of contour lines and how many types and colors you will find on a topographic map, I want you to learn how to read these contour lines to distinguish where the summit is, where is the ridgeline, where is the valley, the saddle, etc. First thing I notice when I first see this map excerpt is that we have some hydrography features here, and when I read the toponymy, I know that here it's a creek named Fish Creek, and here it's a lake named Lake Estates. After that, I can see that there is some mountain tops here, and between these two I have a ridgeline. Why mountains and not depressions? Because if it's the case, they will use the little dashes I've introduced before in the inside of the contour line circles. I see here that there is 6 peaks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Another map feature that I notice is this intermittent river, like here for example, that goes down into this little pond here. Why it goes down this way and not the opposite? Because just from these two index contour lines, these areas are high in altitude with an approximate elevation between 8,400 and 8,600 feet. For this place, using this index contour line, I know that it's an area with only 8,000 feet in elevation. And because water always goes down the slope, this is the direction of this intermittent river. In this topographic map excerpt, we have some vegetation that are represented by this green color, a river here, and some campgrounds. And from these two elevation values, I know that the direction of the slope is this way. But with this river, I know that the slope goes down from this place just to the river. Then it starts going up to the flat area. It's not that flat area, but with no much elevation, because the contour lines are away from each other, unlike this place. I don't know how to explain this. Using this map excerpt as an example, going up this way is easier than going up this way. If you know how to explain this, you can use the comment section below this video and help us. Thank you. Now I want to talk to you about a problem that happened to the majority of the newbies when they try to differentiate between a valley and a ridge, especially in maps without shading like this. This line, for example, is this the uphill and this is a ridge line that goes down, or this is the uphill and it's a valley path that goes down from this place to this. To know how to answer this question, you need to know where is the area with the highest elevation. For that, you may use the toponymy or the elevation values in the index lines, because having just two index lines can give you the direction of the slope. After you know where is the highest point, the V's or the U's, depending on the relief, point to a direction. If this direction is toward lower altitudes, this is a ridge line. If it's toward high altitude, it's a valley. I know that this may sound complex to you the first time you hear it, so let's see an example. Is this the mountain top and this is a ridge line that goes down this way? Or this is the mountain top and this is the river path that goes down this way? To answer this question, not only, but the simple key to answer this is to know where is the high altitude. If I slip this elevation value following the index line, it will be here. From these two elevation values, I know that the high altitude place is this and the low altitude place is this. So, because these little u's point toward the low altitude, this is a ridge line. And because these little v's point toward the high altitude, this is a valley that goes down following this path. Another way to differentiate between a valley and a ridge line without using contour lines is to know that it's impossible for water to be up in a ridge line. It's not a ridge line that have water in the top line because it's impossible, so it's a valley. From that, this is the high altitude place and all the rain gets accumulated and go down here. If you still don't know how to differentiate between a valley and a ridge line on a topographic map, no problem, because you will have another chance in these next questions. Quiz number 1. What is the elevation value of the contour line that the red arrow points on? 8,640, B. 8,660, C. 8,860. Quiz number 2. What represents the place that the arrow points on? A. A saddle, B. A depression, C. A mountain peak. Quiz number 3. The line marked with the red line, is it A. A ridge line or B. A valley? Quiz number 4. Let's say that the blue line represents an intermittent creek. If the top of this map excerpt is the north, what is the direction that this intermittent creek will follow? A. West to east, B. East to west, C. Impossible to know. Question number 1. Describe the relief that you will follow if you went hiking from the point A to the point E. Answers and explanations. For the quiz number 1, what is the elevation of the contour line that the red arrow points on? A. 8,640, B. 8660, C 8860. The first thing we should search for to answer this quiz is to know the contours interval. To do that, we have to use these two index contour lines elevation values. Between 8600 and 8800, we have 200 of difference and 5 contour lines. So each contour interval represents 40 feet of difference. So if we start from this contour line of 8600 and we go up, our contour line will have the value of 8660 feet. So the correct answer is B. For the second quiz, what represents the place where the arrow points on? A. A saddle, B. A depression, C. A mountain peak. The correct answer is a depression and not a mountain peak, because inside the contour line circle, we have little dashes that represent a lowland or a depression. Quiz number 3. The line marked with the red line, is it A. A ridge line, B. Valley path? Here, like I've said before, to differentiate between a ridge and a valley, we have to know the direction of the slope. From these two elevation values, we know that the slope goes down this way, and because the v's point to the opposite direction of the slope, the red line represents a valley path and not a ridge line. Quiz number 4. Let's say that the blue line represents an intermittent creek. If the top of this map excerpt is the north, what is the direction that this intermittent creek will follow? A. West to east, B. East to west, C. Impossible to know. This is a tricky question because here we don't have any elevation values, but we know that this line represents an intermittent creek. And just from this information, we know that this V's represent a valley path and not a ridge line. If it was a ridge line, this place will be high in altitude and this place low. But because it's a valley, it's the opposite. This place is higher than this, so the water will go from east to the west, and the correct answer is B. Question number 1. Describe the relief that you will follow if you went hiking from the point A to the point E. In this map excerpt, we have two elevation values, two mountain peaks, a little hill, and an intermittent creek. So if I want to describe my trail from the point A to the point E, this is what I will say. Starting from the mountain peak at the point A, I will hike down following this ridge line to this saddle at the point B. Then I will hike in the direction of this creek to this point with the elevation blah blah. You can calculate it using the elevation values. Then I will go around this intermittent creek following this intermediate contour line, and I will hike up to the top of the hill marked with the letter E. That's all for this video. Don't forget that you can interact with us in the comments section below, sharing, for example, what is the questions that you get correct and what's not. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.